I don't know if it does a countdown or not. All right, we're live, boys. We're live.
We're live, everybody. Welcome to another episode. Which episode is it? Where are my show notes? Where'd they go?
This is
Hold
level
on.
65.
Oh, here they are. Level 65 of the Sandbox Gamers After Dark podcast. Oh, wait. We're dropping the After Dark. We're just the Sandbox Gamers podcast. We still have the After Dark content, but we're just dropping After Dark, so the acronym is easier to understand. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. We appreciate it. We're a podcast where three vidgets meet weekly to talk about life, love, and the pursuit of vidya. Thank you so much for joining us. I am your co-host with the most, Wonder Rob, coming at you live. Well, semi-live, that is, if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, but live if you're watching us on YouTube right this second. For some reason, we're doing this show live today. I don't really know why.
Yeah.
I think somebody has a sweet tooth, has a craving for candy, and wants to do it. That's an inside joke, everybody. Okay, anyway, I think I just derailed the whole pod, so I'm just going to move on. I'm your co-host with the most, Wonder Rob, coming at you live, well, semi-live, like I said. And on the line with me are two of my best Arizona friends in the metaverse. We've got the guy who's the guy who Marvin's my Martian, Vector.
Greetings, Earthling. Hello. I have my Q47 modulator.
Okay, and the Bugs Bunny in prison hitting a rock with a hammer of our pod.
I don't know.
We got him, boys.
Oh.
The beauty of this is again, I don't read these until the moment of. So I didn't even know what I was saying until the sentence finished, and I got to tell you, it was worth the wait for me. And I'm the Dodgers in the 21st and a half century.
Woo!
You're a little too young for Looney Tunes, Jeff. I don't know if you know about Looney Tunes.
Duck Dodgers sounds lame. He's no bugs, I'll tell you that.
Okay, I'm going to give you $5 right now. No looking, no cheating, Jeff. What is Duck Dodgers a parody of? Quick.
Back to the Future.
Yup, exactly. It is. He's Marty McFly. Thanks, everybody. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcatcher of choice. If you're watching this on YouTube, I don't know if anybody's actually watching this. Leave us a thumbs up or a like or a comment or whatever the kids are doing on YouTube these days. Follow us on Threads. Update. Last week, I ended the pod with 14 followers on Threads. This was the day Threads launched, by the way. 14 followers on Threads. Now, not to brag, 76. That's right.
Ooh.
That's right. Can we get to a cool 500,000 by the next episode? We'll see. Follow us all on Threads. Wonder Rob, JeffW, Vector, or Vectorverse, whatever it is. We are the new and improved Strong Bad podcast. I did it again, boys. I keep wanting to say Strong Bad with the acronym. It's Sandbox Gamer. It says it's written out as the new and improved, and then in all caps, bold, SBAD. And in my mind, that reads as Strong Bad. But we're not the Strong Bad podcast. We're the Sandbox Gamers After Dark podcast. Thank you. We're going to be talking video game news this week. The video game news is a little light, but we still have a little bit to talk about. And mainly, we're going to be talking about pop culture this week. There's some Deadpool 3 news we want to talk about. Jeff got an Asus. Is that how you say it, Jeff? You got an Asus.
You know, it's funny. That is how you say it, but I don't remember what the actual device is called.
It's called an Asus, and Jeff's going to talk about that in a little bit. And the boys are out there supporting cinema. They went and saw Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny and Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Is the mission really impossible if it's like the 7th mission? Anyway, that's just a teaser for our thoughts later in the pod. So one thing I always have to tell you guys when we start a pod is that JeffW is always DTF. Down to talk fun, that is. So, Vactor, why don't you hit Jeff with what he needs? Some of that fun.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know Jeff has been eagerly anticipating what is the new comic book video games that are going to be coming out. Well, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer, Jeff, because EA had a cliffhanger announcement about the upcoming Marvel's Black Panther. And there's going to be some very wet jeans in the house, boys, because not only is it the 57th anniversary of Black Panther's comic debut this month, but a new AAA development studio based in Seattle called Cliffhanger Games is working on a third-person single-player Black Panther game in collaboration with Marvel Games. So this is just the initial announcement that it's happening. It's going to be a game in the universe, but nothing else besides that. It's happening. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, Jeff.
I bet number one, we don't get this game for 3 years, let's say. I bet we don't get this game for 3 years. And Cliffhanger Games, I mean, you know, we have another EA studio. Good luck is all I have to say. Maybe maybe they can do it, but we'll see.
I don't
believe it.
We have a comment on YouTube, Jeff.
Oh, what is the comment?
Yeah,
It's on the screen. Look.
It says
Look
it's
at- I can
somebody from somebody named Candy V. Callback from that terrible joke I made earlier. Jeep. She says, Jeep, thanks for joining us.
Candy's our favorite.
Jeep lover. We
Mhm.
appreciate it. Now, Jeff, would you rather have a game studio announce a game and then it be 5 years out? Or would you rather not know about it and then they announce it, let's say, a year out?
I think I'd rather know like a year out. Even like, you know, Grand Theft Auto. Like if you think about it, Grand Theft Auto, let's say, like games that I anticipate, you can replace it with that. They announce it and then we have to wait. Like when you see the first Grand Theft Auto trailer, you're 2 years out, I feel like, usually, for the most part. And I just think it's too long to wait. And I think, you know, that leads you to like your Duke Nukems, you know, your games where the anticipation just becomes so great that you'll never top it. You know what I mean?
And the game, it just surpasses expectations.
Yeah.
Right. We all loved Duke Nukem Forever.
In Duke's case.
I'm here to kick ass and talk to Jeff.
But
and I'm all out of Jeff.
Or like think about like I could give a fuck what EA says, actually, to be honest, because I don't even believe this is coming out. Because half them Star Wars games they put out, they announced haven't done shit and aren't even coming out. So we don't believe EA regardless. And like I said on Threads, my first post on Threads, Skate 4, baby. Where's my Skate 4? It's been a long time.
It's true.
Still not out.
Jeff's first and only post on Threads was simply Skate 4.
Mm-hmm.
That's the content you can expect from the Sandbox gamers. This is supposedly an open world game, you guys, which I'm all about. You know, Daddy likes the open world. But let me ask you this, Trent. Maybe you can shed some light on the subject. This is not the same game that was announced a while back, the Black Panther Captain America game?
Correct.
Or it is?
No, this is a different game.
So we're getting two separate Black Panther games from two separate studios.
Yeah.
It sounds like bullshit. There's no way.
Yeah.
We can't even get that. What happened to that Wolverine game?
Oh, that's years out, probably.
What happened to that? Nothing happened.
Actually, last I heard, which was recently, that they're hiring writers for the game currently. Like they're all in on Spider-Man 2. And I think once Spider-Man 2 is on the shelves is when they're going to really start the Wolverine game. That's all scuttlebutt though.
That game, if true, that game is fucked.
man, don't
Mhm.
say that, Jeff. Don't say that.
It
Why would you
is.
say that?
Yeah, why do you say that?
Because it's just I don't know. I do like is it Insomnia who's
Yeah,
making
it's Insomnia.
Insomniac, my bad. I'm sorry. Not David Tell's Insomniac.
Insomnia. Oh, Dave Attell's Insomniac. That is a
Yeah.
deep cut, Jeff.
Yeah,
And
there
I
you go.
appreciate that. I used
There's
to
a
watch.
reference.
I watched that show every week, Jeff.
Oh,
he was in
yeah.
Tempe one time.
I should find that episode then. Yeah.
Yeah, he was at the Hippie Gypsy and stuff like that.
Oh man.
That's a local reference for you guys out there.
But I mean, I think Insomniac's good, but I don't again, like if you haven't even written the game, like why tell me?
That was the last time I heard about it. I
Mhm.
I read that they had job postings for writers
Oh, right,
a while
right.
back. So that might be additional writers. I don't know if
Just
the
wait.
writer strike applies to video games. So that's an interesting
I think it does.
so maybe
Oh wait,
that's,
no. I think it does not.
yeah, so I don't really know. But back to the original point is that I was getting confused about the previous Captain America Black Panther game that was announced, and we haven't heard anything about.
Yeah.
So who knows if that game is still happening? But
Yeah.
I agree with Jeff. I would much prefer. You don't need to tell me about the game you're making that's 5 years out. You know how long I've been waiting for Fable, Jeff? Forever. Forever. If we had a
Yeah.
soundboard, Trent would be pushing that button. Forever.
Yeah. So that it's an untitled Captain America Black Panther game. It's being done by Skydance New Media. This
Whoever
game
that is.
Cliffhanger Games. So yes, they are two separate games, and they are both happening. And when Jeff is playing them, he's gonna be very happy.
As long as they're not like that one Marvel game that Ubisoft made that really we
Who
won't
was that?
we won't get too mean.
I don't
He's
know
talking
which
about
game
the
you're talking
Avengers.
about.
Yeah,
the
that Avengers
Avengers
game. Yeah.
Was that Ubisoft? I thought it was Square Enix. Or
Or
they
is it
did
Square Enix?
together.
One of
Yes.
those. One of the
Right.
others.
Get
Yeah.
your
That game-
facts straight.
That game pooped the bed. You're not
Still
wrong.
bad.
That game was not that good.
Yeah, and I bought
Guess
the
who's-
deluxe edition for somebody on this
Yeah,
show.
'cause
I
it's
bought it with
co-op.
them. He fooled me
Because it's
into it.
co-op.
Well, I didn't
Guess
ask
who's
you to
gonna
do that
be-
for me, Jeff. But you did
Guess
it
who's gonna
anyway.
be in the untitled Captain America Black Panther game? Jeff.
Oh, is it
Let's
Yuri
hear it.
or Nolan North or
Cillian
whoever else?
Murphy.
Yeah,
It is a female. Now, Jeff, what
Zendaya.
video game actress do you know? Who is the only video game actress that you know? Jeff?
Tara Strong.
Janina Gavankar.
He
So
doesn't
this
even
game
know
is
the only
gonna
actress he
be
knows.
Good.
Dude,
Yeah,
I would
Jeff.
put her as a video
Jeff,
game
you don't
actor.
even
Yeah,
know
yeah.
her.
Yeah, Tavina DeBong voices Princess Peach. Jeff?
Hey, guess who's writing that Captain America Black Panther game?
Who?
Not only Amy Hennig, but
Hmm.
Mark Bernard and Fat Man on Batman.
What?
Oh wow. Okay.
What?
I'd be all right.
How you like that, Jeff?
Somebody in our YouTube chat wrote, "Wow, that Candy V must be a supermodel." Nice, nice. That's we flirt with our viewers. The best part is she doesn't know which one of us typed that. It
No,
could have been
she
any
asked
one of
me.
us. No, she didn't. No.
Direct message. She goes, "Is that you?"
Who knows? What, I'm not allowed to call your wife a supermodel? What's wrong with that, dude? It's a compliment. All right.
man.
So that's
So
that.
there's
So
two Black Panther games, Jeff.
yeah,
Yeah.
Jeff.
We'll see. I bet we get one. I say we get one, probably.
All right. Put it down on the time capsule, and we'll come back and check that in 30 years, Jeff.
Mhm.
All right, moving on. This isn't video game news, but it was a slow video game news week, and we don't really want to talk about the Microsoft acquisition of Activision and all that stuff
Right.
because
The
it's the
one of
same.
13 lawsuits.
Yeah, it's the same story every week, so we don't want to really talk about it. So let's talk the bombshell that happened. Again, not exactly video game related, but sort of, because we were just talking a Marvel video game. There were some behind the scenes stills, quote unquote, leaked of Deadpool 3 featuring the one and only Hugh Jackman in his classic Wolverine costume, and I need to know exactly how hard each one of you got when you saw that. Starting with Chief.
Yeah, that was I was super hyped on that actually. Number one, because I feel like Hugh Jackman got totally I didn't cream my pants. We'll just say that. I did not. I just, it was just I was excited for said, leaks. But Hugh Jackman has not had enough good Wolverines, I think, under his belt. So for him to get an
Not enough
iconic
good
looking,
Wolverines.
yeah, I mean, I think
Right,
some of
let's
those
go
X-Men
down the
movies
list.
are shitty. I think that Wolverine movie's shitty that they did.
Vactor. I'm going to go down the list. You mark which ones Jeff says are good versus bad, and we're going to figure out, does he have more good or bad? Okay, so you got X-Men. Good or bad,
Yep.
Jeff?
Jeff
Bad.
says good.
He says bad. Did you just say bad, or are you being serious?
No. I would say the first one's good. You talking about 2000s, right?
Yeah, so I'm
2000
just
X-Men?
going down the list. Off the top of the dome, because that's how dedicated I am, Jeff. X-Men 2.
Bad.
Okay.
What?
Hey, we're just going down the list. He thinks the single best X-Men movie is bad. He's allowed. He's wrong, but he's allowed.
He's lying. He's trying to get a response. He's trying to troll a reaction out of me.
Yeah, it's bad.
Okay, he thinks it's
No,
bad.
that's
Let's see
not
what he says
true.
about number 3, though. This will be the real test to see if he's trolling
Okay.
or not. Jeff, what about number 3?
Bad.
I don't think he's
Okay.
ever seen these movies.
Bad.
Maybe he has.
We're gonna get there. We're gonna.
What's
get
an
there.
X-Man? Okay, so X-Men 3 is bad. X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Bad.
X-Men First Class.
Bad.
X-Men Days of Future Past.
Now that is the greatest. That's the best. That's one of my favorite comic book movies, period. I would say Days of Future Past.
Okay. X-Men no, it's not X-Men Origins Wolverine. It's just The Wolverine. What about The Wolverine?
I can't even
He's
remember
never
the
seen it.
Wolverine. I don't know if y'all even seen that.
Directed by
That's probably-
James Mangold.
Yeah.
Yes. How
Was
about
that the one that leaked? Right? That had to be the one that leaked, right? Or
No, that was X-Men Origins Wolverine.
that was Origin. Okay.
I watched that shit for free. The leaked version. I'm part of the problem. What about Logan?
Logan's really good. I really, really like Logan.
Okay, I don't believe I forgot any. Trent, what's the verdict?
Jeff
More bads?
the only movie he likes
Is the
Days
first
of
one
Future Past.
and Days of Future Past and Logan.
That's it.
I was saying they stand out to me.
I don't even remember what we were talking about. Oh, Deadpool 3.
I just burned your brain so hard.
That's right. What I'm curious about with these leaks is, so the very first picture was posted on Ryan Reynolds's Instagram story, and then that took off like wildfire. And then a shitload, a Jeff load, if you will, of pics from the set all came out the same day.
So
Tons of them.
did he? So he posted the first actual image of it, or
As far as I'm
wow.
aware, he did.
So he must have known they were shopping these images around. Maybe?
Exactly. That's what I think happened, because to me it feels like the reveal of Wolverine in his costume is like a trailer moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not something that they're putting out right away, or they're putting out an official still, like when Iron Man came out, or when the Dark Knight came out for like Heath Ledger, like they're putting out official stills.
That's 100% a Comic-Con. When you talk about creaming jeans or whatever you were talking about earlier, that is that moment if they reveal him in that at like a Comic-Con type thing. I feel like.
So, and it's the only thing going on in town because there's a writer's strike, so nothing new's being written. They're not really filming anything right now because of the writer's strike. So I assume that this is all people have to do is just go look around at the movies that are currently being filmed. And now there's an actor's strike. The SAG strike just happened. So now I don't believe they can even film right now. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But let's talk about one of the pictures in particular, and I'm curious about your thoughts. There's a picture where Wolverine and Deadpool are fighting in front of what looks like a demolished or half demolished 20th Century Fox logo. Have you seen this? Have you seen this? Have you heard about this, Kev? Did you guys see that picture?
I did see that. I don't. Maybe I'm not rooted enough in what the symbology here is, the symbolism is here. So I don't know what the.
Let me enlighten you, Joe.
I don't get it.
They
got bought, right? Is that what's happened?
Well, yeah, Disney owns Fox, but here's my two thoughts. I came to two conclusions when I looked at that, and I'll let Trent talk in a minute. He's the comic expert. I'm just a layperson talking about this. Either it's Deadpool kills the Fox universe based on all the rumors of who's joining the cast, like Jennifer Garner, Ben Affleck's been spotted on set. There's been Fantastic Four rumors, etc., etc.
Okay.
Or hear me out on this. What if they're in the same place? I forget what it's called, and Trent will have to enlighten me on this. Where in Loki, where they sent all the Loki variants, that world with all the trash.
Oh yeah.
What if they're there? Did I just blow your mind? Did I just blow your mind? Oh, because Owen Wilson is rumored to be in the cast too, although you haven't seen any official things. But anyway, just a little food for thought, you guys. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that costume. What do you think, Vector? Did you cream your jeans?
Oh yeah, this was something that we've been waiting for since 1992, when I had a big bowl of cereal right in front of the TV screen, and I was watching the X-Men animated series. Everybody was also butthurt about him having sleeves, whereas the comic suit and that cartoon, he does not have sleeves. So I don't know what that was all about, but this looks very good. Just like the Deadpool costume itself, it looks like they're trying to be super comic accurate, which makes me happy.
The Deadpool costume is like a brighter shade of red. It's virtually the same as far as I can tell, but the shade is brighter.
Yeah, his eyes are a little bit different. His belt buckle's different, and then the material on the suit is a little bit different. Whereas the older ones, it looked like they were trying to go for that leather, realistic look. This one looks more like it's almost trying to be like spandex. So it looks like they're trying to go for more comic book.
You know what they need? They have it, but not really. Is they need that little piece of fabric that's hanging off the back of Deadpool's head.
Oh
on
yeah,
his mask. Like, it sticks out just a little bit, but that's not enough. Like I want it dangling in the wind, like Donatello's bandana. Like that would be rad.
Yeah.
But no, or we're not seeing this anytime soon. Deadpool 3, I don't think opens until next summer, if not earlier. But it's definitely not this year. So we'll see how that goes, boys. But a little Deadpool talk for the kids out there. Let's shift gears. We're going to move into our Let's Play section. And we do have a small amount of video games to talk about. I've been playing Humanity on the PSVR 2. But I'm actually going to save my thoughts on that for the next episode because we got a lot to talk about. Jeff is the proud owner of an Asus ROG Ally. For those of you who don't know, that is a competitor, a product very similar to the Steam Deck, a handheld PC. Very similar form factor, very similar setup to the Steam Deck and the variety of other handheld PCs that are out there right now. But these two, Vector and Jeff, went halvesies on a Steam Deck a while back. My old Steam Deck, as a matter of fact. And then they straight up threw it in the trash. For a ROG Ally. So I am curious, Jeff, what made you make the switch to the Asus, and how do you like it compared to the Steam Deck?
Well, like most things, I was fooled into it by our buddy here. No. Well, so the number one thing is the Steam Deck is pretty flexible, let's say. There's quite a bit you could do with it, but I prefer actually to have a Windows-based device, only because I can get like Diablo 4, other things on there, and it does that pretty well. I know Trent got his hands on it yesterday, or what day did we see Mission Impossible? It's been a day or two.
was
It's
2
been a
days
couple
ago.
days. Anyway, so I let him test it out too. There's things, if I can just compare it to the Steam Deck, I think ultimately it's better. I think it does run a little better. I could if I had bumped the settings down on like Jedi Survivor, I think you can run it on there. You're gonna have to sacrifice probably some like textures and shadows a little bit here and there, and maybe I don't know if there is a variable like resolution option on that or not, but something like that I think it could make this thing go a long way. I would say the biggest problem I have with it is the clunkiness, like versus the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck is like felt very, even me and Trent sharing it back and forth, like, very simple, straightforward, not a lot of like hit or miss here, and like, or just, everything worked well. The community behind the controller profiles to make everything work. It's pretty great on the Steam Deck. And all that stuff is basically missing from the Asus thing here. I think it's funny. I started it up and I knew what I knew I was going to set up Windows, but it never sounds as bad until you're doing it, and then you're like, "Fuck, I'm setting up Windows right now," which is like the shittiest experience of all time now because it has to be online. It has to be, all this stuff, and it kind of blows.
Trent's holding it up. Look at those LED thumbsticks. That adds 10 extra graphics on any game you're playing.
Right. And so I'd say that sucks. Also, it sucks logging into everything because, I also have everything like 2-factor authentication, like you should if you're purchasing stuff on that account. So I'm like double logging into everything over and over again. But once you get there, it actually is really nice. The hand, there is a little bit of like you have to sort of compare everything, handheld versus plugged in. Because when it's plugged into the wall, you get it goes into what's called turbo mode. I don't know if Trent's seen that yet, but it kind of goes from performance and turbo modes. When you take the battery or when you take the power cable out and you're on battery, it goes to performance. It lowers the performance a little bit, but just makes it, makes the battery last a little longer. But as soon as you plug it in, that fan is like kicking. It's going and it's really pushing the device. And it looks really good. I ran a few games. I ran Jedi Survivor on there.
Hold on, Jedi Survivor would boot?
Yes, it did boot. You could.
It
get
would
into
not
the
boot
game.
on the Steam Deck. Just so everybody knows.
Yeah, I got to play. It was really framey while I was playing, but you can. I feel like you can tweak some stuff in there and make it, a little more playable. I imagine if you drop it down to like 720p, even, I think you might be able to get some pretty good performance out of it, maybe. But yeah, it's definitely good. I like it. It's just clunky. It's not. I was telling Vactor, it's almost like it's a little bit like not entirely, but it's almost like an Android versus an Apple device in a way, right? Apple's everything is all tied in together. The Android you have to do a little more work, although at the end of the day you get a little more control over the device. So it feels like that comparison. And just a couple things about build quality. The LEDs on the joysticks are awesome. The software that they have to like change all that stuff is pretty good. It's a little bit, again, clunky here and there, but they have dedicated buttons to it on there, like a below select and start. There's some stuff you can get into the menu and change things on the fly. And it feels good in the hand. It feels solid. It doesn't feel cheap or plasticky. It doesn't feel like, or I should say like hollow plastic. It feels pretty good. The vent on that thing it's at the top. So it is nice that all of the heat kicks out of the vent right there. It's sort of, if you're looking at it here, it's on the bottom of this video, or bottom side of that, but if you're looking at it, it's on the left top of the device, which is not fun to hold. When you accidentally go to do one of these moves and grab it and it's hot, that is not fun. But I do like it overall though, just because it's blowing away from me, pretty much generally at all times. Yeah, man, it's really good. I like it. I think it probably would outlast, like, I don't know. I think it's just a really solid competitor, especially if you're willing to, tweak stuff a little bit and like actually, log into everything you got and then, modify it yourself. You just don't get that community support that, the Steam Deck has.
So it operates like a desktop when you're not using
Yes.
it for games?
Oh, yes. So there is 2 modes of control. You get a desktop kind of control and a gamepad control. That sucks. And in fact, I was telling Trent this when I handed it to him. I'm like, you're gonna have to use the touchscreen a lot, or at least I did. I found it to be the quickest way of just, I need to get to Windows again. I'll just swipe up, go to the taskbar. Using the dedicated mouse Joy-Con, option there was not great, and like sometimes it just didn't register stuff when I tried to click it with it. So that kind of sucks, but you can still maneuver in the touch screen fairly simple, in a fairly simple manner. You're not going to really like struggle with it. It's just not as maybe in tune, or maybe developed, I guess, is maybe the menu makes it look to be.
How's the battery life compared to the Steam Deck?
My battery life seemed to be okay. I actually, it's funny. I have this plug right here. Oftentimes when I was trying it, I was laying here and plugged into here because I wanted that performance. So I actually didn't test the battery to like the fullest extent. But I bet you it drains it. And the other thing, I guess, you have to kind of treat it like a laptop in a way, right? Or like a mobile tablet with Windows. I'm looking at it, I'm just paranoid about like, how many services are running in the background, how many things are going on. Like I need to like customize Windows more. When I hand it to Vactor, I'm like, I still need to like tweak this for us a little bit to make it run better. I tried to, get rid of like stuff we don't need, like OneDrive and all this other garbage.
Get OneDrive off of there.
That's what I'm saying. It's
McAfee, what's it doing on
yeah. It's it's a little weird. But overall, I mean, I don't know how much Trent got to play with it, but
how's your experience with it,
enjoying
Trent?
it?
I got to pick it up and I got to plug it in.
Ooh, you like how it feels in your hands?
Oh yeah, it's smaller than it's slimmer than the Steam Deck, and it's a little bit lighter.
Yeah, it's funny. I would like to I haven't held it back to back. That's what she said. But it definitely feels. I think it feels good though. It feels like like not. I wouldn't say it like feels cheap, which was what my fear in a Windows based device.
Well,
right.
Do you regret? Do you have buyer's remorse? Or are you happy with your swap? Jeff Rose, he's gone.
Yep. Sorry.
We're live.
Say it again. Say it again. It froze.
Do you regret your purchase? Do you have buyer's remorse, or are you happy with the swap
for the Steam Deck? No, I'm happy with it because I can play more games, and I don't have to with Steam Deck. If you want to really get going, you have to, do some hacking. I guess let's say you have to do a little bit of
that's true.
Extra work, and here you're, there's extra work, but less of a barrier. Let's say
you could get BattleNet on there, or
the
Epic Games Launcher.
And that was the first thing I did. Yeah, and it has like a little. In fact, I don't know if you've even messed with it enough. It has like a little game library section there where it'll pull up like the launchers and then the games you have installed. So, I mean, they do a pretty good job at like scanning your C drive. But the problem is it just it's not the greatest way to manage those games. I find. Literally, I was using it like Windows, which is fine. But it's it would be nice to have some kind of like interface that kind of took over, instead of just Windows in touch mode or whatever.
All right. Well, we appreciate your review, Jeff. I'm me in electronics. I'm mildly jelly right now of it.
How
But
long before this shows up to your house?
Oh
Or
my
one
gosh.
of these?
I was gonna say, well, it'll sit there with my PSVR 2 and my
Oh yeah, true.
and my Quest 2 and my Steam Deck and my Nintendo Switch and all my other things, but I just gotta have it. It's just how it goes, Chip. So we'll see. And my non-existent analog pocket that may or may not ever come to me.
Oh
Hey.
yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what's happening there. All right. So we're going to shift gears again, since it is a slow video game week. The boys saw a double feature since the last time we saw them. They saw Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and they saw Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. So the boys are going to discuss these movies. I'm going to simply sit back and take in the spoilers because I haven't seen these. And to be perfectly transparent, I don't really have a desire to see either one of these. But
Dang.
Ooh.
I really do have a desire to hear my boys talk about movies, because that might be my preferred way to consume movies these days, is to hear Jeff and Mac talk about it. If it doesn't say Marvel's Indiana Jones or Marvel's Mission Impossible,
Ooh.
very rarely am I interested. So
Rough.
I'll let you guys take it away. Tell us about those movies. Oh, and for everybody listening, if you don't want to hear spoilers, just skip to the very end of the pod, because I'm giving the boys full authority to spoil whatever they want about either one of these movies.
Mm.
All right, take it away, boys.
I want to know Jeff's history, because both of these are sequels in long-running franchises. So let's start off with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. This is the 5th Indiana Jones movie in the series. There was also a Young Indiana Jones TV show in the 90s. Jeff, going into this Dial of Destiny, what was your experience with Indiana Jones?
I have seen at some point in my life like 2 of them, I think. So not much.
Dang.
And then, well, then when I was growing up, like, going through, what year did that shitty one, the Crystal Skull come out? What year was that?
2007.
Yeah, so I was in like high school, so that was coming out then, and boy, did that movie get 2008. Yeah, I was still in high school. And that movie got shit on. So actually, I don't think I've ever seen that movie outside of clips of that alien bullshit that's in that movie. So I really don't have a ton of experience with the franchise, other than, like I said, like I remember the movies. I could tell you, like, Short Round, who he is, like I can remember things, but at the same time, I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, remember this great reference here, I know, like, and it's funny, I probably know some through like some of the references through, like, Kevin Smith dialogue, right? More so than actually watching those movies and being a huge fan. Basically, I'm fine with these movies, but I'm not a huge fan. I'm not creaming my jeans, as Rob would put it, over this franchise.
Well, I enjoy the Indiana Jones movies. I don't love them, but I respect them, especially the people behind them. Steven Spielberg directed the first 4. He did not direct this new one we just saw. That was James Mangold, who directed The Wolverine and Logan, and he's directing an upcoming Star Wars movie. So Steven Spielberg, director, George Lucas, producer on all the originals. So I always find them to be interesting because each one is set in a different time period, and they're all supposed to be homages to old school stuff. So like the originals are supposed to be the action adventure serials, like in the 40s, the 30s and the 40s, where that's where that term cliffhanger comes from, where at the very end of it, somebody would literally be hanging off a cliff and you're like, all right, tune in next week and see if he lives. That's what the original Indiana Joneses are supposed to be, kind of like an homage to. So I always thought those were interesting. And then when Crystal Skull came out, it was a tribute to science fiction, like B movies in the 50s. and that's where where you would get the giant ant. Oh, we're gonna die because there's an ant.
Mhm.
Like just what's like corny today. So that crystal skull, it was supposed to be aliens and an homage to that type of movie. So I always thought those were interesting, the behind the scenes and like what they were supposed to be. The actual movies themselves, I I watched them and one time, and then I never went back to them. I wasn't like I was watching them like Star Wars, like I wasn't watching them every year. So I think they're interesting, and I like listening to the behind the scenes and like what they went through to make the movies.
Mhm.
And so when this one came out, the thing that was interesting to me on Dial of Destiny was, all right, Harrison Ford is 80 years old. What does that look like? Because even in 2008, he was like
Mhm.
sick in his 60s,
And
and
he's
we were
wrecked a
like,
plane since then.
oh yeah,
In between these movies, like
we were
what
like,
the hell?
he was old in 2008, and he
Mhm.
could barely move. So what is it going to be like when he's 80? And I thought this Dial of Destiny, they did a pretty good job of disguising his age. And there's a couple ways that they did that. Number one is they had a bunch of de-aging, digital de-aging of his face in a bunch of flashbacks. And then in like the current timeline of the movie, there was a bunch of stunt doubles. Like he was barely doing any of the actual
Oh,
running, or
yeah, no.
the only thing he
And when
was
you
doing
saw
was
him
sitting in a
doing it,
car.
it looked rough.
Yeah. So I think Dial of Destiny accomplished the goal of, all right, here's what is Indiana Jones as an old man, and also just a fun action movie, because the whole movie is like a chase. Like every scene is, all right, he's
Right.
running from the Nazis. All right, he's running from that guy, the CIA guy. This is
He's running in
the
the library.
Do you even do anything, Indy, or you just run?
That's
What
that's the
happened?
irony here. The oldest fucker in the movie is constantly running. So it's like it just doesn't look great, I think, in some
very
parts.
Tom Cruise esque, which we will
Oh
get
yeah.
to when we talk about Mission Impossible. But I thought it was interesting, like I said, just to see him at that age, and then also where is this going to go from here? Because it's billed as like, all right, this is his last one. This is the final Indiana Jones,
Mhm.
which we thought the last one was in 2008. And
Right.
what I really find interesting also about these is like, does it justify them creating a whole new one? And
Mhm.
after the third movie has maybe the greatest ending of all time for a franchise. He literally, now the third one is the one with
Yeah, what
Sean
happens
Connery.
in the third
So
one?
the third one is his dad, and uh it's like the whole franchise, like all three movies come to a conclusion. Like you find out about his dad, his history, his past, and the last shot of the movie is them riding off into the sunset, like literally riding off into the sunset. Like that is
Mhm.
the last shot of the movie. So it's like, why would you try to come back from that? Like, why would you try to do another ending to that? Because you're never going to
Mhm.
top that ending for the franchise, right? So when they did it with Crystal Skull, I was like, all right, well, that didn't justify them coming back. And now with this one, the same thing. I don't think it justified like bringing him back out of retirement, out of mothballs.
Mhm.
I just don't know why they said, yeah, let's do it again. Let's do another one.
Yeah, and there's a couple, like you said, he looks rough in some of the movie, and it is very plainly obvious like this guy's not moving around much anymore, which like obviously he shouldn't be. Um, the there's also like a couple like the sort of like other side characters going on here, So Rob, obviously, it's like about Nazis, and they're chasing after this device that is a time travel device. They're basically they're not saying that, but that's like heavily hinted out at throughout the entire movie. And then, you know, almost everybody but the doctor, the Nazi doctor, to me could have been any person at any point. And like they kept showing the black actress. I don't know her name or even her name in the movie, and they didn't flesh that character out, I think, almost at all. Like she was shown a lot and on camera, but like just nothing.
I think
no
they
substance there for me
I
at
think they
all.
had a whole like other plot with her that got cut because it
Mhm.
doesn't really make sense. The stuff you see in the movie, it
Yeah.
looks like she's a character like that they were focusing on. They had
They
a
zoom in
backstory.
on her face multiple times in this movie, and you're like, I don't know who this bitch really is. Like, I don't know
I
what we got going on. Like, what is this? Like,
I think this movie is 2 hours and 45 minutes. I think they're like, all right,
oh,
we
yeah.
we got to cut some stuff out of
Fuck,
this because it's
fucking
already
yeah. Let's
too
talk about
long.
that. Oh my god. You know, I don't know that any other Indiana Jones movies. Was there points in I guess the last one had that alien bullshit. There was a point in this movie where I was like, all right, you got to be fucking like let's go. They Rob, without spoilers, you know all the Indiana Jones filler that happens up to this point. They go through this time portal in an airplane with all the characters you've been following. Everybody goes back in time except the black lady. They kill her before that. Then they're back in like this ancient Roman time, and he's meeting Archimedes or whatever. And I'm just like, this
they all
is
speak English back then.
yes, basically. And it is, or actually, I think they're speaking some Italian. I won't shit on the movie for
They
that.
speak
They
of the
are speaking-
Italian.
or whatever the hell they are, you know. They talk with their hands a lot.
That's what get.
And God, I'm just like at the time, me and Vector in there, and I'm just like, oh my God, this movie is like another 25 minutes from being over. Like,
Is that when everybody looks at you and goes,
wrap this shit up. Now we had the boomers next to us. They moved down seats to get some better seats. I've never seen that in a movie theater.
I gotta get closer to that screen.
They moved to the handicap seats next to us.
If the light,
which is,
I'm one row closer. The light hits my
Yeah.
eyes that much
Yeah.
faster.
yeah. So these people took the handicap seats next to us after they realized nobody with the handicap was there, and then they were giggling the whole time. They loved old ass Harrison in there, I guess. To me, I didn't really care for it. But yeah, there's a point where they do the thing back in time, and I'm like, all right, like, man, this fucking movie is 2.5 hours deep. I feel like at this point, like, we need to wrap this shit up. And there's like a lot of dialogue, a lot of like, you know, they don't want, you know, Indiana Jones wants to stay with Archimedes, you know, for history and all this stuff, and they got to argue. It's just like, all right, man, like this feels so generic to me that I'm just like, I'm over
I
the
had-
movie at this point.
I had the opposite reaction, Rob. That was when the movie got good to me, is when they had the time travel. Like everything up to the time travel thing, I
Mhm.
think they could have cut like that very first opening scene with him on the train. I think they
Right.
could have cut that. That
yeah.
could have taken out 20 minutes from the movie.
And I would say I almost it's almost not even that I think that the movie's bad. I think that is interesting. I think you should keep that in. But it was like once we got there, I was like, I knew we had a lot left. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I'm more just exhausted with the movie at that point. I would almost agree with you though. It is like maybe the better part, and you cut a ton of that other garbage before for sure.
Because I think, and I was listening to a bunch of reviews on this right after we saw the film. A
Mhm.
bunch of people were saying the reason why they thought that was the best part of the movie, when they're flying towards the time portal, they
Mhm.
said, I don't know what's going to happen. They like everything up to that point. They're like, all right, we know what's going to happen. This is generic. All right, he's running from the Nazis, whatever. We already know what's going to happen. When they were flying towards the time portal, we were like, is he going to go back in time? And then if he goes back in time, is he going to go to the Nazi? Because they were trying to get back to World War II and change
Mhm.
history.
Hold on, kill Hitler.
Yeah.
Oh, super original idea, everybody. We'll go kill baby Hitler.
I thought that was interesting that we didn't know where it was going to go from there. And then once they went through the time portal, and they're like, oh, they did go back in time. Like this is not fake. They actually went back to Archimedes' time. Once they got there, the whole thing about he said he wanted to die there, and I was thinking, I was like, they could end it right here, and that might be a good ending because it's like, all right, he's been the whole series, he's been an archaeologist, so this guy, like, he lives for history, and he goes back in time and he dies in the whatever time period. That would be interesting. Then I was also thinking about, okay, what Phoebe Waller-Bridges character was saying, like, if you stay here, you're gonna ruin the timeline, like you're gonna mess up everything from this point forward. So I was like, oh yeah, maybe he shouldn't stay there. So at the same time, I was like juggling back and forth. Is this a good idea or is this not a good idea? So that was interesting to me that they did that. They actually went back in time.
Yeah, and I think if you would have put that like halfway, or maybe even a little further back, and then make a good second half of the movie Indy getting back, because Rob, what happens basically? They argue, and then they punch Indiana Jones in the face, knock him out. They don't tell you anything. They don't show you them going back into normal time or back into the regular timeline. Indy comes back. I don't know who the lady is that he's about to bang. She's there. And then they end the movie with his hat being pulled.
Yeah, tell us more about the banging.
I gotta tell you real quick. So that lady that Jeff didn't know is the original love interest from the very first movie. That was his wife in the last movie. She's a famous, like, she's basically Princess Leia of this franchise. So that's
Indiana Jones was gonna bang his wife.
Yeah, there was a little too much kissing at the end.
That's the opposite of shock.
I guess he doesn't see the other movies. He pulls his hat at the end, and then all I took from that, as somebody not a fan, I'm like, okay, so Indiana Jones bangs his wife with the hat on.
Nice.
Was how I took that. I don't know about Vactor. I think Vactor, he was all sentimental about it.
Well, I always made that assumption.
No, when I saw that, I was like, oh, he's not done yet. He's going to go on another adventure after this, because like the very last shot is the hat is hanging up, and it's like that Looney Tunes
after he got done making out with his wife
is closing, and you're like, oh, this is a nice fitting end. And then right before the circle closes, he reaches out and he grabs the hat. So I'm like, oh, he's coming back. There's another Indiana Jones.
No, you got to wear the hat to do it with his wife. Hold on, baby. Baby, hold on. I gotta go to the hat. This is my mojo.
Yeah.
Sick,
So,
you guys.
Rob, I don't think you've ever talked to me about Indiana Jones. Do you like the franchise of Indiana Jones?
I mean, I enjoy the first three, just as much as anybody else does. I agree with you. That's not like it's Star Wars or it's, Back to the Future or anything like that. But, I've enjoyed the movies for what they were. I did not particularly enjoy The Crystal Skull. As a matter of fact, I only saw it the one time in theater and never went back. And I sort of had that mindset with this movie, like, you guys have hit the peak, right? And you know how many movies have come back years later? There's like, that's the trend now. You got a Beetlejuice 2, you got your Zoolander 2. Obviously, it's not in the same league. Zoolander isn't in the same league as Indiana Jones, but just an example. Dumb and Dumber 2. All these franchises that are dead and gone, and they're bringing them back for pure nostalgia. And usually, outside of the nostalgia, they're not that good. So I wasn't super motivated to see this movie, and I was really just waiting on if this, movie miraculously blows everyone out of the water. It's getting great Rotten Tomatoes. Everybody's like, I can't believe they did it. They really did it. The bastards did it. They brought back Indiana Jones. I probably would have picked myself up and went to the theater to see it. But based on what I'm hearing, that's not really the case, and I will probably simply wait till Disney Plus.
This would be a good one to watch on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Like I said, there seems to be a longer cut of this movie that has these subplots with these other characters. Because like Jeff said, there's multiple characters that it seems like they are pivotal characters, but then they cut away and you just never find out about them. And I think there's a bunch of stuff, maybe when it comes out on Blu-ray, that we'll see the Mangold cut. It's 3.5 hours long, and we get her whole backstory, just to see what's going on. Because I didn't think she was an interesting character, and I did want to know like what was going on with her before this movie, like to set her up as this CIA agent, in the 60s, the late 60s. So I think that's might be interesting if they decide to put, the cutting room floor stuff on there. But yeah, this is a good one to watch on Disney Plus. I would not run out to the theater.
All right, now we're running out of time, boys, but I do want you to talk about Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Yes.
Starring everybody's favorite Scientologist, Tom Cruise, who has gone on to say that he will make it, or I almost said Indiana Jones, he will make Mission Impossible movies until he is in a wheelchair and cannot move anymore. They have to hold him up with strings.
Which is funny because all leading up to this movie, and I was talking to Jeff after we got out, all they said was, "This is the last one. This is the final hurrah for
Dead
Tom
Reckoning."
Cruise.
That's
This
how
is
they
the
get you to
last
go
one."
see it.
Because
Also, but it's part 1. It's like Fast X. It's like, yeah, this is the last Fast and Furious movie, but it's in 3 parts.
Yeah.
So there's actually 2 more after this, not to mention the spin-offs, but those are the last ones
man.
too, everybody.
Yeah. So not only did Tom Cruise say that, but the director, Christopher McQuarrie, also said, yeah, I'd like to do another one. I could be convinced to do another one. So I don't know if this is the last one or not, but Mission Impossible is a series that, unlike Indiana Jones, as we talked about with the Crystal Skull, the later installments are actually good, and Tom Cruise getting older has not, I think, made the films less, not as good. So I'm a big fan of Mission Impossible. I'm a fan of all the films, but I was excited about this one. And my review of this movie, it is a good Mission Impossible movie. Like everything you're expecting it to be, it is. There wasn't anything that surprised me that I was like, oh, I've never seen that before. It's Tom Cruise doing his own stunts,
Like,
running
he's on a
lot.
plane this time. Wow.
And there's a scene in this movie which is exactly like Indiana Jones, where they're running on top of trains and they're fighting, and it's like, wait a minute, did they not see the other movie?
We watched these 2 movies. They train chasing scenes and a lot of running. It was like a marathon.
Yeah. But I had a good time with this one. Dead Reckoning, I would say, is worth seeing in the theater. It's a great action movie. If you like action movies, this is like the perfect movie for my dad. Like, he loves these type of movies. It's a James Bond movie, going to different locations, exotic locations. There's another MacGuffin, as there always is in every single movie. Oh, you got to get the box. You got to go run over there and get that box. All right, now you got to run over there and get that box. But this one has an AI hinge to it. And I thought that was interesting, us being technology guys. And I asked Jeff what he thought about the MacGuffin being AI and what is the effect. Like, that's basically the villain of the movie is Chat GPT. The whole thing is like, there's an algorithm and it's going to get you. This algorithm is so smart.
Wow. I liked that the first time in Space Jam Back in Action. whatever the fuck that movie was called.
This goes back to war games. Like, there's the rogue AI thing of, all right, the computers are gonna, Skynet is gonna get us, guys. That fear has always been there. But I think it's interesting because of like our current lives and what we experience on a day-to-day basis is a lot more than like in the 80s when you're talking about AI. People are not, all right, let me go to Chat GPT right after this and let me change my voice and do all these things with AI. Let me get an AI generated image. I think we have so much more access now than we did back in the day. This, to me, felt a little bit more close to home. Like, there's a scene in the movie where Simon Pegg's character gets his voice altered, and it's the AI talking to Tom Cruise in his ear. And he, like, you can't, how would you know it's not Simon Pegg, right? Like, it sounds exactly like him. The AI voice generation that is believable to a point where it's like, oh yeah, what would you do? You can't really stop that. Like there's nothing you can do to combat the I know that you're the AI versus I know it's Simon Pegg. So Jeff, real quick, tell us what do you think about the AI aspect of the movie?
I thought it was interesting. You know, the dialogue, and this is a problem I have with the movie in general. Is like, I really like the movie, but some of the dialogue in here and like some of the jokes don't land for me personally. And I think like it falls into a little bit of that trap where like they're just spewing like technical mumbo jumbo. You know, in some of the parts, they're like, oh, well, you got to get to the source code to get to the blah 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 blah. And, you know, you're like, all right, you don't really know what the fuck you're talking about. Like, you know, you're just kind of like
Get to the source code.
So, you know, there's a little bit of that bothered me, and that's why I told, you know, Vactor when we got out of the theater. But I mean, overall, I think it makes it interesting. I think it's an interesting way to get them to, you know, strip the team of technology, you know, and like give them sort of like an extra layer of difficulty to everything they have to do in this movie. So, you know, I'd say it's I do like it in general, you know, aside from like a couple of the like dialogue things about it, you know.
Yeah. I also said this after the movie, Rob, and I actually would like to get your take on this. I think we're getting to the point now with the technology where it's going to be hard for writers to be like, oh, how do we put these guys in peril? And the analogy that I gave Jeff was in a lot of movies now, and even in comic books, I've seen writers be like, yeah, I just ended up setting it in the 80s because I didn't want to have to deal with cell phones. Like anything can be looked up on a cell phone. Like there's so many problems that can just be eliminated if somebody's got, oh, it's got a phone on it. We can just call 911 or whatever it is. So I think we're getting to that point now with facial recognition and AI, all of those technology things are coming to a head where it's going to be difficult to write a scenario where somebody's in danger, where you're like, oh, wait a minute, they can just like look it up. They can just Google that, or they can do that. So do you, Rob, think it's a problem for facial technology? Like they had this in Minority Report too, where it's like, no matter what train you get on, no matter what stoplight you go to, every camera's looking at your face, can identify you, can pinpoint you. And with GPS, it's like, do you, Rob, think it's getting to a point where technology is going to be like, oh yeah, it's not interesting anymore? Like, how do we put these guys in danger? Or how do they get out of that? Like, you know, the point where it's like, where is that guy? Oh, wait a minute. Why is that a problem? Because technology could just that guy's right there. We have his face on every single camera on every corner. Like, why is that a problem? Like, do you think that's going to get to a point with technology where the movies are just not even going to be interesting anymore?
No, because they'll just go back and do what Jeff said. There will be a plot point in the movie where they're saying, I hacked into the mainframe. Cameras are down. I'm clickety clickety click clack clack. GPS is down. Cell phone's down.
They actually kind of do that in this movie, and there's a counter for that. Like it's kind of hard to
back
explain.
up. Mainframe is up, sucker. You got 30 mainframes. I guess you could. I guess it's not the mainframe if it's the second. It's the second frame. Got that. No, in all seriousness, I'm not really that worried about that because I feel like as time evolves and stories evolve and technologies evolve, you know, if you're going to be a good writer, you'll have to come up with creative ways around these things. So either you're going to get a bunch of movies that are set in the 80s, or you'll get some, I hope, writers that are stretching a bit of their creativity to work their way around these problems. So I feel like it could be an issue, but I'm not confident that it's going to be a major issue.
Yeah. Well, I think Jeff and I both enjoyed Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Part 2 comes out next year, June 28th, 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if I would say one other thing, it is one of the better. It's the reason we're gonna go see Oppenheimer too. One of the better looking movies I think you'll see this year.
Well, I'll be at Barbie. Personally,
I just noticed this movie has a $291 million budget. It is one of the most expensive films ever made and the most expensive in the franchise. So I hope it looks good for being one of the most expensive movies of all time. Yeah, I think the movie looks good. And like I said, it's that classic Tom Cruise. If you like seeing Tom Cruise run, you're going to love this movie.
I want him to go back to being that bald producer guy in Tropic
Les
Thunder.
Grossman.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where's that Les Grossman movie we were promised years ago? That movie never happened. And I'm
Yeah.
still pissed. Speaking of pissed, this episode of the Sandbox Gamers is about to come to an end. But don't turn off the podcast yet, because I have a couple quick things to tell you. Or if you're watching us on live, if you happen to be watching us on YouTube Live, or you're watching it after the fact, don't skip to the next video. We need the clicks. All right, we only got 12 subscribers on the YouTube. Cut us a break. Let me tell you about a way more successful YouTube channel, the Vactorverse, starring our own Vactor, where he gives you everything and anything you could possibly ever want to know in comic books. You ever need to know, needed to know, or will need to know is covered on that YouTube page. Tell him, Vactor.
That is 100% correct. Each week in the Vactorverse, we're sharing different interviews with comic book content creators. This week, actually, I just put out a new episode today. Normally, I put them out on Friday, but we had a special case this week because I did a 3-way crossover episode with Beer with Geeks and Animation Fascination. We were talking about the new Superman anime, My Adventures with Superman, which is on both Max, the HBO streaming service, as well as Adult Swim. I highly recommend it. It is a fantastic show. You can check out the latest episode of the Vactorverse and hear why I thought it was a great show. And then every day on the Vactorverse, I'm trying to put out a short piece of content. So check out different character biographies and different moments in the Star Wars universe. So if you like Star Wars, you like comic books, you're going to love the Vactorverse.
And today I just learned about who Guy Gardner is. That's a name that I've heard thrown about in comic books. I know he is a Green Lantern. I know that the ring passed him up for Hal Jordan, but outside of that, I didn't know nothing about him outside of his bowl cut. And Vactor helped enlighten me with the short today. So
I also just saw James Gunn said Nathan Fillion is going to have the bowl cut in the movie.
Take that. But don't try to talk to James Gunn directly on Instagram or Twitter or Threads, because that is cringe, everybody. Now, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, do all the things on the YouTube page. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to check out the link tree in the show notes, because you'll find all our social media links there. Find us all on Threads, because we're pushing that. That's the latest dopamine hit when it comes to social networking. And the two things I say every week at the end of Sandbox Gamers: bye, Tommy. Gigi.